Is India's history just a story of the past? Or is it the key to understanding one of the world's greatest and most enduring civilizations? Journey with us through thousands of years of remarkable diversity and unity, revolutionary ideas and imperial power, struggles for freedom and modern aspirations. What makes India's story so unique? And how does this ancient legacy shape our present and future? India is not just a country. It is a vast, living tapestry woven from thousands of years of human experience. From the snow-capped Himalayas in the north to the tropical shores of the Indian Ocean in the south, the Indian subcontinent has been home to some of the world's oldest and most influential civilizations. Its story is one of extraordinary depth and diversity, marked by spiritual discovery, imperial grandeur, foreign invasions, cultural synthesis, and revolutionary resistance. Geographically varied and culturally rich, India has nurtured a multitude of languages, faiths, philosophies, and social systems. It is the birthplace of major world religions like Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, and a historic meeting ground for Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and Zoroastrianism. This unique confluence has shaped a society both diverse and resilient, capable of remarkable continuity even amid constant transformation. In this documentary, we explore the major chapters of Indian history, from ancient civilizations and classical empires to colonial subjugation, the struggle for independence, and the challenges and triumphs of a modern democratic nation. Each era offers its own insight into the enduring spirit of India. Long before the rise of empires and dynasties, the Indian subcontinent was home to one of the world's first great urban civilizations, the Indus Valley Civilization, c. 2600 to 1900 BCE. Flourishing across parts of modern-day Pakistan and northwestern India, it spanned over 1,000 settlements. With major urban centers like Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, and Dholavira standing out as remarkable examples of early city planning and architectural sophistication. These cities were marvels of engineering. Streets were laid out in precise grids, homes were equipped with private wells and bathrooms, and a vast underground drainage system carried waste away, technology unrivaled in the ancient world. Granaries, dockyards, and public baths reflected not only architectural prowess, but also a strong administrative structure. The uniformity in brick sizes and town layouts suggests centralized planning and control, possibly by a ruling elite or council. The economy was based on agriculture, craft production, and extensive trade networks. Seals bearing animal motifs and a still undeciphered script point to commercial and possibly religious activities. Goods such as beads, ivory, and ceramics were traded with Mesopotamia and other distant regions, indicating a robust international exchange system. Yet despite its achievements, the Indus Valley Civilization mysteriously declined around 1900 BCE. Scholars have debated the causes: climate change, river shifts, tectonic activity, and the Aryan migration or invasion theory. Each remains plausible but unproven. The lack of monumental palaces or identifiable royal graves also puzzles historians, as does the complete disappearance of its written language. Following the decline of the Indus Valley Civilization, a new era began with the arrival and settlement of the Indo-Aryans around 1500 BCE. Whether these groups migrated peacefully into the subcontinent or arrived as part of an invasion remains debated. This Aryan migration invasion theory is one of the most contested topics in South Asian history. Genetic, linguistic, and archaeological evidence continues to be interpreted in varying ways. The early Indo-Aryans brought with them Sanskrit, a rich oral tradition, and a series of texts known as the Vedas. The Rig Veda, the oldest of these, offers a glimpse into a society organized around pastoral life, sacrificial rituals, yajnas, and the worship of natural elements like fire, Agni, the sea, Surya, and the sky god, Indra. These texts form the philosophical and religious backbone of what would eventually evolve into Hinduism. During this Vedic Age, c. or 1500-600 BCE, society was organized into varnas, social classes. Brahmins, priests, kshatriyas, warriors, vaishyas, merchants, and shudras, laborers. Over time, this system became more rigid and stratified into jatis, castes, forming a complex and enduring social hierarchy. By the later Vedic period, there was a transition from tribal chiefdoms to kingdoms, Mahajanapadas, and rituals grew more elaborate. Texts like the Upanishads emerged, emphasizing internal reflection, karma, dharma, and moksha, liberation. These philosophical concepts became central to classical Hindu thought. The Vedic religion gradually morphed into classical Hinduism, a broad and inclusive system of beliefs, rituals, and practices. It absorbed local deities, embraced diverse paths to salvation, devotion, knowledge, action, and supported a polycentric worldview. Hinduism's ability to evolve while maintaining continuity with its Vedic roots remains one of its defining features. By the 6th century BCE, dissatisfaction with Vedic ritualism and caste hierarchies led to the emergence of new spiritual movements. Among them, Jainism and Buddhism stood out for their radical departures from the Vedic norm. Jainism, founded by Mahavira, 599 to 527 BCE, emphasized ahimsa, nonviolence, asceticism, and self-discipline as the path to spiritual liberation. Jain philosophy teaches that every soul is potentially divine but bound by karma, which must be shed through ethical living, renunciation, and truthfulness. Jain monks and nuns followed extreme forms of austerity, while lay followers maintained ethical living and supported the monastic community. Jainism rejected the authority of the Vedas and the caste system, emphasizing individual responsibility and inner purity. Buddhism, founded by Siddhartha Gautama, known as the Buddha, c. 563–483 BCE, also rejected Vedic orthodoxy. Born a prince in modern-day Nepal, Siddhartha renounced royal life in search of truth and enlightenment. After intense meditation, he attained nirvana and began teaching the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, a practical guide to end suffering and attain liberation. Buddhism's egalitarian ethics, simplicity, and monastic institutions attracted followers across social classes. It was patronized by Emperor Ashoka of the Maurya Empire, 3rd century BCE, who helped spread the religion across Asia, from Sri Lanka to China, Korea, and Japan, through missionaries and inscriptions. While Jainism remained influential primarily in Western India, Buddhism declined in the subcontinent by the 10th century CE, partly due to the revival of devotional Hinduism and the decline of monastic institutions after invasions. However, it continued to thrive in East and Southeast Asia. These traditions, although numerically smaller today, played a critical role in shaping Indian ethical thought, art, and religious pluralism. Their emphasis on nonviolence, introspection, and compassion continues to resonate in India and across the globe. The Maurya Empire marks the first large-scale political unification of much of the Indian subcontinent, setting a foundation for imperial governance and cultural integration. Founded by Chandragupta Maurya around 321 BCE, the empire expanded rapidly, conquering the fragmented kingdoms left in the wake of Alexander the Great's retreat from northwest India. Chandragupta's reign established a centralized administration based on a complex bureaucracy and an extensive spy network, described vividly in the Arthashastra, attributed to his advisor Kautilya, Chanakya. This treatise laid out guidelines for statecraft, economic policies, military strategy, and diplomacy. The Mauryan economy thrived on agriculture, trade, and control of key routes linking Central Asia, the Middle East, and South Asia. The empire reached its zenith under Emperor Ashoka, RC 268–232 BCE, Chandragupta's grandson, whose reign is considered one of the high points of Indian history. Ashoka initially expanded the empire through brutal conquest, most famously the Kalinga War, which resulted in massive casualties and suffering. Deeply affected by this, Ashoka embraced Buddhism, advocating for dharma, moral law, nonviolence, and welfare for his subjects. He propagated his ideals through edicts inscribed on pillars and rocks across the empire in multiple languages and scripts. These edicts promoted ethical governance, religious tolerance, and compassion towards all living beings, reflecting a unique blend of spirituality and statecraft. Ashoka's support helped Buddhism spread across Asia, leaving a lasting religious and cultural legacy. The Maurya Empire's decline began after Ashoka's death due to weak successors and regional revolts, but its achievements in unification, administration, and culture set a precedent for future Indian empires. Following centuries of political fragmentation after the Mauryas, the Gupta Empire emerged as a beacon of cultural renaissance and political stability, often described as the Golden Age of India. Founded by Chandragupta I, the Guptas consolidated northern India and fostered a flourishing of arts, science, religion, and literature. Mathematics saw revolutionary advances during this period, including the conceptualization of zero as a number and the decimal system, which later revolutionized global mathematics. The astronomer Aryabhata made groundbreaking discoveries about the solar system, and physicians like Sushruta advanced surgical techniques. In literature, Kalidasa stands out as the greatest classical Sanskrit poet and playwright. His works, such as Shakuntala, blending poetic beauty with philosophical depth. Art and architecture flourished too, as seen in the exquisite cave temples of Ajanta and Ellora, which blended Buddhist, Hindu, and Jain motifs. Religiously, the Gupta period was marked by harmonious coexistence. Hinduism experienced revival and elaboration, with the worship of Vishnu and Shiva becoming widespread, while Buddhism and Jainism continued to thrive. The Guptas supported all three traditions, reflecting a policy of religious tolerance. The empire's decline in the mid-6th century CE was triggered by invasions from the Hunas, Hephthalites, and internal political instability, leading to fragmentation and the rise of regional kingdoms. Nonetheless, the Gupta legacy, intellectual achievements, religious developments, and cultural efflorescence had a profound and enduring influence on the Indian subcontinent and beyond. While northern India saw the rise and fall of empires, the Deccan and southern peninsula developed its own vibrant political and cultural traditions through kingdoms such as the Satavahanas, Chola, Cheras, and Pandyas. The Satavahanas, 1st century BCE, 3rd century CE, controlled large swaths of the Deccan, acting as a bridge between northern and southern cultures. They promoted trade across the Indian Ocean, connecting India with Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and East Africa. The Chola dynasty, 9th to 13th centuries CE, in particular, became a maritime power with an impressive navy that extended Indian influence to Sri Lanka, Maldives, and parts of Southeast Asia. Their control of sea routes facilitated trade, cultural exchange, and the spread of Indian art, religion, and governance models overseas. Architecturally, the southern kingdoms built magnificent temples that remain iconic today. The Brihadiswarar temple at Thanjavur, completed in 1010 CE, exemplifies the Cholas' architectural genius, with towering gopurams, gateway towers, and intricately carved sculptures. These temples were not just places of worship, but also centers of economic activity, education, and social life. This era also saw the beginnings of the Bhakti movement, which emphasized personal devotion to gods such as Shiva and Vishnu over ritualistic orthodoxy. Poets and saints like Appar, Sundarar, and Alvars composed hymns in regional languages, promoting spiritual equality and accessibility. This devotional wave profoundly shaped Indian religious life and helped integrate diverse linguistic and cultural communities. The early medieval period was characterized by the fragmentation of political power, but a remarkable cultural integration across regions. The once dominant imperial structures gave way to regional kingdoms such as the Rashtrakutas in the Deccan, the Palas in Bengal and Bihar, and the Pratiharas in northern India. The Rashtrakutas, 8th through 10th century CE, were known for their patronage of art and architecture, especially the rock-cut temples of Ellora, which include some of India's most celebrated Buddhist, Hindu, and Jain cave complexes. They maintained control over important trade routes and fostered cultural exchange. In eastern India, the Pala dynasty, 8th-12th centuries CE, also promoted Buddhism, founding great monastic universities such as Nalanda and Vikramashila, which attracted scholars from across Asia. This period saw a flourishing of Tantric Buddhist and Hindu traditions, marked by esoteric rituals and complex symbolism. The Pratiharas in the northwest played a vital role in resisting Arab invasions, helping preserve the subcontinent's cultural and religious identity. Religiously, this era saw the rise of Tantric traditions within both Hinduism and Buddhism, emphasizing mystical practices and esoteric knowledge. Simultaneously, the Bhakti movement gained momentum, emphasizing devotion and emotional connection to personal deities, cutting across caste and gender barriers. Parallel to Bhakti, the Sufi movement began to take root in northern India. Sufism's mystical approach to Islam, its message of love and tolerance, appealed to many and played a key role in fostering religious syncretism. Politically fragmented yet culturally vibrant, this period laid the groundwork for the medieval Indian civilization's pluralistic ethos. Despite the absence of a single political power, ideas, art forms, and religious movements circulated widely, contributing to a shared yet diverse cultural heritage. The Delhi Sultanate marks a transformative period in Indian history, introducing Islamic rule that would reshape the subcontinent's political, cultural, and religious landscape. Established in 1206 CE following the defeat of the last Hindu king of Delhi, the Sultanate was ruled by successive dynasties: the Mamluks, slave dynasty, Khaljis, Tughlaqs, and Lodis, each contributing to the expansion and consolidation of Muslim rule across northern India. The Mamluks laid the foundation by establishing Delhi as the capital and securing territories in the Gangetic Plains. The Khalji dynasty, 1290 to 1320, expanded the empire's reach into the Deccan through military campaigns, while the Tughlaqs, 1320 to 1414, attempted ambitious administrative reforms and ambitious projects, though often hampered by rebellions and famine. The Sultanate introduced Persian culture, language, and administrative institutions to India. Persian became the court language, and Islamic law, Sharia, influenced governance, though rulers often adapted policies to suit the diverse religious landscape. The introduction of new architectural styles, blending Islamic and indigenous elements, produced iconic monuments like the Qutub Minar, a towering victory tower, and the Alai Darwaza Gateway, exemplifying Indo-Islamic architecture. Religious dynamics during this period were complex. While political power rested with Muslim sultans, the majority Hindu population continued to practice their faith. Sufi saints, with their messages of love and tolerance, played a crucial role in bridging communities. Simultaneously, the Bhakti movement, led by poets like Kabir and Mirabai, emerged among Hindus, emphasizing personal devotion and social reform, often critiquing caste discrimination and ritualism. Administratively, the Sultanate established a centralized bureaucracy and a military system that incorporated cavalry and war elephants. Land revenue systems like the IQTA system redistributed land for military service, shaping agrarian relations. Though periodically weakened by internal strife and external invasions, such as the Mongol threats, the Delhi Sultanate laid the groundwork for later Muslim empires, especially the Mughals, influencing Indian culture and polity deeply. The Mughal Empire, founded by Babur in 1526 after his decisive victory at the First Battle of Panipat, ushered in a new era of imperial grandeur and cultural synthesis. Babur, a descendant of Timur and Genghis Khan, combined Central Asian military tactics with Indian political realities to establish a dynasty that would dominate much of South Asia for nearly 2 centuries. The empire reached its zenith under Emperor Akbar, 1556-1605, renowned for his visionary policies of religious tolerance and administrative innovation. Akbar's court was notable for its inclusion of diverse religious leaders and scholars, and he developed the concept of Dini Ilahi, a syncretic faith aiming to transcend religious divisions. His reforms in land revenue, judicial systems, and military organizations strengthened central authority while allowing considerable regional autonomy. Under Akbar, the Mughal administration implemented an efficient mansabdari system, ranking officials by military and civil merit, which helped maintain a large and disciplined bureaucracy and army. Akbar's patronage also extended to arts and architecture, supporting Persian and Indian artists alike. Following Akbar, emperors like Jahangir and Shah Jahan continued the cultural flowering. Jahangir's court was famous for its refined painting style and garden architecture. Shah Jahan's reign is immortalized by the construction of the Taj Mahal, a monumental mausoleum symbolizing both imperial power and artistic achievement, blending Persian, Indian, and Islamic architectural styles. However, the empire's zenith gave way to challenges under Aurangzeb, 1658-1707. His strict religious orthodoxy reversed many of Akbar's policies of tolerance, imposing Sharia-based laws and reintroducing the jizya tax on non-Muslims. Aurangzeb's long military campaigns in the Deccan drained the empire's resources and ignited resistance from emerging regional powers, such as the Marathas and Sikhs. Despite these internal challenges, the Mughal Empire profoundly shaped Indian culture. It fostered the evolution of the Urdu language, a blend of Persian, Arabic, and local dialects, enriched cuisine with Mughlai dishes, and influenced music and dance. Mughal art and architecture set standards of refinement that continue to inspire. The empire's decline after Aurangzeb was marked by fragmentation as regional states asserted independence. Yet the Mughal legacy remained an indelible part of the Indian historical fabric, influencing governance, culture, and identity. Following the decline of centralized Mughal authority, India witnessed the rise of powerful regional entities. The Marathas in western India, under leaders like Shivaji, established a resilient confederacy challenging Mughal supremacy. The Sikhs, led by figures such as Guru Gobind Singh, consolidated power in the Punjab, blending religious and military resistance against external domination. Meanwhile, various Nawabs, regional governors, asserted autonomy in Bengal, Awadh, and other provinces. Simultaneously, European powers intensified their presence along India's coasts. The Portuguese had been the earliest to arrive, followed by the Dutch, French, and British, all competing for trade dominance. The British East India Company, leveraging political instability and superior military organization, steadily expanded control. The pivotal moment came at the Battle of Plassey, 1757, where the British defeated the Nawab of Bengal with the aid of local collaborators, marking the beginning of British political dominance in India. This event set the stage for the colonial era that would profoundly reshape the subcontinent's future. The British East India Company, EIC, initially a trading enterprise, transformed into a powerful political force in India following its decisive victory at the Battle of Plassey in 1757. This battle allowed the EIC to install puppet rulers in Bengal, one of the wealthiest provinces, laying the foundation for territorial expansion through military conquest and strategic diplomacy. Over the next century, the company expanded its control through a mix of warfare, such as the Anglo-Mysore Wars and Anglo-Maratha Wars, and alliances with regional powers. By the early 19th century, the EIC governed vast areas of India, either directly or through subsidiary alliances, becoming the de facto ruler of the subcontinent. This expansion deeply impacted India's agriculture and economy. Traditional systems were disrupted by land revenue policies like the permanent settlement in Bengal, which fixed taxes but often impoverished peasants and empowered landlords. The introduction of cash crops for export altered farming patterns, sometimes leading to food shortages. Economically, Indian artisans and textiles faced decline due to British imports, triggering deindustrialization in some sectors. However, the British also introduced new infrastructure, roads, canals, and telegraph lines, to facilitate trade and administration. The company's role in education was ambivalent. While initially uninterested, it gradually sponsored English language education and missionary schools, promoting Western ideas but often undermining indigenous learning traditions. Social structures were strained as British policies favored certain groups, exacerbating caste and religious divides. Tensions culminated in the 1857 revolt, also known as the First War of Indian Independence. Sparked by grievances ranging from military insensitivity, the issue of greased cartridges, to economic exploitation, the revolt involved widespread uprisings. Leaders like Mangal Pandey, a soldier who resisted the British, and Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi, a queen who fiercely defended her kingdom, became symbols of resistance. Though ultimately suppressed, the revolt exposed the fragility of company rule and forced Britain to rethink its governance strategy. In the aftermath of the 1857 revolt, the British Crown assumed direct control over India, ushering in the period known as the British Raj. The Government of India Act 1858 dissolved the East India Company, placing India under a viceroy appointed by the British monarch. The Raj implemented wide-ranging reforms to stabilize and modernize the colony. A vast network of railways, often called the steel arteries of India, was constructed, facilitating troop movements and commerce. Telegraph lines, postal services, and improved roads integrated the vast territory. Industrialization under the Raj was uneven. While large-scale industries such as railways and mining expanded, indigenous industries struggled against British manufactured imports. The British employed a divide-and-rule policy, exacerbating communal divisions, particularly between Hindus and Muslims. Policies favoring certain religious or caste groups, along with separate electorates introduced in the early 20th century, sowed seeds of mistrust. Political awareness grew with the formation of the Indian National Congress, INC, in 1885, which began as a forum for moderate elites seeking reforms. Meanwhile, the All India Muslim League emerged in 1906, initially advocating Muslim interests, but later demanding a separate state. The colonial period also sparked profound social reform and a cultural renaissance, especially in Bengal and other urban centers. Reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Roy advocated against practices such as sati, widow immolation, and for women's education, laying the groundwork for modern social activism. Swami Vivekananda brought Indian spirituality to global attention at the 1893 World Parliament of Religions in Chicago, emphasizing the universality of Hindu philosophy and the dignity of the individual. In Maharashtra, Jyotiba Phule and his wife Savitribai Phule pioneered efforts against caste discrimination and championed education for marginalized communities and women. The Bengal Renaissance produced an explosion of literature, art, and press freedom, with figures like Rabindranath Tagore promoting nationalism through culture. Tensions between revivalists, who sought to preserve traditional Hindu values, and reformists, who pushed for social change, shaped debates on caste, gender, and religion. Women's rights, abolition of untouchability, and education became central themes in the struggle to modernize Indian society under colonial rule. The late 19th and early 20th centuries witnessed the rise of national consciousness and revolutionary fervor. The Swadeshi movement, sparked by the partition of Bengal in 1905, called for the boycott of British goods and the revival of indigenous industries. This movement galvanized millions and laid the foundation for mass political participation. Alongside constitutional activism, a generation of revolutionaries embraced more radical means. Figures like Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad, and Subhas Chandra Bose inspired youth through acts of defiance, including bombings, assassinations, and armed resistance. The Indian press and poetry became powerful tools for mobilization. Newspapers circulated nationalist ideas, while poets like Allama Iqbal and Sarojini Naidu evoked patriotic sentiments that crossed linguistic and religious boundaries. Public protests, strikes, and boycotts multiplied, signaling a new phase in the struggle for independence, one involving broad swaths of Indian society. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, popularly known as Mahatma Gandhi, returned to India from South Africa in 1915, bringing with him a philosophy of nonviolent resistance that would redefine the Indian freedom struggle and inspire global movements for civil rights and justice. In South Africa, Gandhi had developed his method of satyagraha, literally truth force, a technique of peaceful civil disobedience against unjust laws. Upon his return, he began applying these principles to challenge British colonial rule in India, emphasizing the moral power of nonviolence, ahimsa, and the importance of self-reliance, Swadeshi. One of Gandhi's most iconic protests was the Dandi March in 1930, a 240-mile trek to the Arabian Sea coast to produce salt in defiance of British salt taxes. This act galvanized millions across India to join the civil disobedience movement, breaking laws peacefully and enduring arrests. During World War II, Gandhi launched the Quit India movement, 1942, demanding an immediate end to British rule. Despite brutal repression, the movement intensified Indian demands for independence. Gandhi's philosophy extended beyond politics. He championed social reforms, including the upliftment of the marginalized Harijans, Dalits, rural self-sufficiency, and religious harmony among Hindus, Muslims, and others. His global influence resonated with leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, and the global civil rights movement, marking him as a universal symbol of peaceful resistance. While Gandhi was the moral compass of the independence movement, many other leaders played crucial roles. Subhas Chandra Bose, a charismatic and militant nationalist, rejected Gandhi's nonviolence. He formed the Indian National Army, INA, with Japanese support during World War II, aiming to liberate India through armed struggle. Bose remains a symbol of revolutionary zeal and patriotism. Jawaharlal Nehru, a close associate of Gandhi and the first Prime Minister of independent India, articulated a vision of a secular, socialist, and democratic India. His leadership in the Indian National Congress helped steer India through independence and early nation-building. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, known as the Iron Man of India, was instrumental in integrating princely states into the Indian Union after independence, preventing the fragmentation of the new nation. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, a jurist and social reformer, championed the rights of the marginalized Dalits. As the principal architect of the Indian Constitution, Ambedkar's work institutionalized social justice, equality, and secularism. The Muslim League, led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, demanded a separate homeland for Muslims, culminating in the call for Pakistan. The League's political negotiations and mass mobilization intensified communal divisions and shaped the eventual partition. These diverse leaders and movements reflected the complex, multifaceted nature of India's struggle for freedom, embodying different visions and strategies that together shaped the subcontinent's destiny. The culmination of the freedom struggle was the partition of British India and the creation of two independent dominions, India and Pakistan, on August 15, 1947. The British government, led by Lord Mountbatten, hastily implemented a plan that divided Punjab and Bengal based on religious majorities. Partition triggered one of the largest mass migrations in human history, with an estimated 10 to 15 million people crossing borders to join their chosen nation. The migration was accompanied by horrific communal violence, with estimates of over 1 million deaths, widespread displacement, and deep-seated trauma. Families were torn apart, and the scars of partition have persisted in the political and cultural consciousness of both nations. The event profoundly shaped India's policies on secularism, refugees, and minority rights. Despite the violence, India's leaders sought to build a democratic and pluralistic state, embracing the challenges of unity amid diversity. The legacy of partition remains a powerful reminder of the costs of communal division and the resilience required to forge a nation committed to democracy and inclusion. Following independence in 1907, India embarked on the monumental task of nation-building, guided by the visionary leaders who framed the Constitution of India, adopted in 1950. This constitution established India as a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, enshrining fundamental rights and equality before the law. It aimed to unify a diverse population of multiple languages, religions, and cultures under a single democratic framework. Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first prime minister, championed a vision of Nehruvian socialism, emphasizing state-led industrialization, scientific development, and economic self-sufficiency. Large public sector enterprises and planned economic development became the cornerstone of policy, aiming to eradicate poverty and lay the foundation for a modern economy. In the global arena, India pursued a policy of non-alignment during the Cold War, refusing to align explicitly with either the US-led Western Bloc or the Soviet-led Eastern Bloc. This independent foreign policy sought to promote peace and decolonization worldwide. Domestically, India undertook the linguistic reorganization of states in the 1950s and 1960s, recognizing linguistic identities by creating states based largely on dominant languages. This move helped ease regional tensions and fostered a federal system balancing unity and diversity. Despite many challenges, poverty, illiteracy, communal tensions, the period laid a strong democratic and institutional foundation for the world's largest democracy. After Nehru's death in 1964, India experienced both political and economic turbulence. Indira Gandhi, his daughter and successor, became prime minister and navigated a period marked by crisis and transformation. Indira's rule saw significant achievements such as the Green Revolution, which revolutionized agriculture through high-yield seeds and irrigation, making India self-sufficient in food grains. Her leadership during the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War also elevated India's regional influence. However, her tenure was marred by authoritarian measures, notably the Emergency, 1975-77, when civil liberties were suspended, opposition suppressed, and press censorship imposed. The Emergency remains a controversial chapter reflecting the tension between democracy and state power. The period also witnessed the rise of regional political parties, reflecting growing assertion of local identities and challenging the Congress Party's dominance, leading to increased political fragmentation. Following Indira Gandhi's assassination in 1984, her son Rajiv Gandhi became prime minister, promoting early economic reforms and technological modernization, including expanding telecommunications and computer education. However, by the late 1980s, India faced a severe economic crisis marked by fiscal deficits and balance of payments problems, which set the stage for major policy shifts. The economic crisis of 1991 prompted India to embark on a path of liberalization, privatization, and globalization under Finance Minister Manmohan Singh. Reforms dismantled the License Raj, reduced tariffs, and opened markets to foreign investment, triggering rapid economic growth and integration into the global economy. This period witnessed the IT boom, with cities like Bangalore and Hyderabad emerging as global technology hubs, fueling urbanization and the rise of a new middle class with increased consumption and aspirations. Politically, India saw significant shifts. The Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, rose to prominence with its Hindutva ideology, emphasizing Hindu cultural nationalism, reshaping electoral politics and social discourse. Simultaneously, regional coalitions became key to governance, reflecting India's complex diversity. Socially, India grappled with issues of Dalit rights, caste-based discrimination, and affirmative action debates. Environmental protests emerged in response to industrialization's ecological impact, while digital activism has become a new frontier for political and social engagement, especially among youth. India today is a vibrant but complex democracy balancing rapid modernization with deep-seated social challenges, striving to fulfill its founding ideals amid global and local pressures. India's history is a vast, intricate tapestry woven from thousands of years of continuous human civilization. The story of Indian history is not one of abrupt beginnings and endings, but rather an eternal flow, a dynamic interaction between continuity and change, unity and diversity. This unique blend has shaped a civilization that is both deeply rooted in ancient traditions and ever-evolving through new ideas, peoples, and challenges. Reflecting on India's historical journey, one is struck by its remarkable cultural and religious pluralism. From the urban sophistication of the Indus Valley Civilization to the spiritual revolutions of Buddhism and Jainism, from the grandeur of empires like the Mauryas and Mughals to the struggles and triumphs of colonial resistance, Indian history is a narrative of synthesis and resilience. This diversity, often a source of strength, also presents challenges in interpreting the past fairly and inclusively. Multiple perspectives, regional, religious, linguistic, and social, must be acknowledged to appreciate the full richness of India's heritage without oversimplification or exclusion. India today embodies the idea of a civilization state, where ancient roots coexist with modern aspirations. Its democratic institutions, constitutional ideals, and pluralistic society draw strength from centuries-old philosophies of tolerance, debate, and coexistence. The nation's ongoing efforts to balance economic development with social justice, to nurture unity while honoring diversity, are echoes of its historical experiences. The lessons from Indian history are profound and globally relevant. They remind us that societies are not static, but constantly shaped by the interactions of ideas, peoples, and environments. India's story encourages openness to cultural exchange, the peaceful resolution of differences, and the importance of ethical governance. As India continues its journey in the 21st century, facing new challenges like globalization, technological change, and environmental sustainability, it carries forward a legacy that is at once ancient and modern. Understanding this legacy fosters appreciation not only for India's past, but also for its potential role as a bridge between civilizations and a contributor to global progress. In essence, Indian history is a testament to the enduring human spirit, an ongoing narrative of adaptation, creativity, and hope. It invites us all to explore, learn, and engage with one of the world's most vibrant and complex civilizations, reminding us that the past is always alive within the present, guiding the path to the future.